What's up, guys? Bryce Lewis. So I'm about to start my workout, repping the Citadel Nutrition shirt, but I wanted to show you the chains that we just got. These are 5/8 inch link chains. Each 5-foot segment weighs 18 3/4 pounds, and we got 150 pounds of them, and I'm pretty damn excited to start using these in regular training. So today I'll be using them in some speed deadlifts, and I think Sunday we'll be using on some speed bench, and basically I just want to use more accommodating resistance in speed squats and speed bench. So without further ado, let's get to it. Hey, so about to start off with some deadlifts here. I'm on some speed deadlifts, and this is my first chance to get to use chains. These new chains I picked up at McMaster Cars, this big giant warehouse supply place in I don't know, Anaheim area. And it cost $350, and it kind of took me a while, and I put in some clips so you can kind of see how I'm getting used to setting these up. Obviously this right here is not the right setup because the chains get stuck underneath the bar. So I moved them out and set them towards the center of the bar. That turned out not to be the best setup either, because they kind of get stuck up by your groin, into your feet. You've got to kind of move them out so you can get your feet set up. And I settled on pushing them towards the side of the rack there, but still inside the rack, and that seemed to give me the most space and still accommodate them. Each chain segment weighs 18 3/4 pounds, with a combined total for 8 chains of 150 pounds. And it's a nice way of adding accommodating resistance, as I've kind of started to realize. And I think the more I play around with these, the better off I'm going to be in terms of being able to keep speed off the ground and still get progressively heavier in terms of what weight I'm lifting. Well, my program today calls for 10 singles at this weight, piggybacking off of some of the ideas of Mike Tuchscherer in terms of traditional speed work for Westside being too light to really get to that. And honestly, this felt a little bit too light anyways, even though I'm about 60% of my 1 rep max plus chains here. So I'll go up in the weeks to come, since this will be my staple DE lower exercise. This is the chain setup that I've come to grow accustomed to, and it seems to function the best for me. I'm doing these beltless so I can get a little bit more lumbar drive and lumbar support. And the workout before this, for lower, I messed around with some sumo for an assistance exercise, some sumo deadlifts, and it didn't feel too shabby. It's really the first time I've ever sumo deadlifted was this past workout, so I'm throwing in all these new kinds of things and just getting my feet wet into different training methodologies. You'll also see something else that's new that I bring up that I'll mention just a little bit later. It's a eccentric heavy squat deload. We can talk a little bit about form here. I'm trying to keep my back flat and keep my head in line with the rest of my spine. Actually, here's my sumo. So the only thing I know about sumo is what I've seen from other people do it. So I'm starting my feet medium wide, taking a grip still in the knurling, so not quite centered, and still alternating grip since that's what's comfortable for me. And then grip and rip, keeping my back flat, driving knees out, and big hip tension. And it felt pretty easy. Of course, it's only 405 with chains compared to what I'm usually at, but I'd like to experiment with later on. Okay, here's a squat walkout, kind of warming myself up towards this big eccentric. And the walkout itself is a great movement to put at the start of, let's say, a dynamic lower day, because it kind of primes the central nervous system and it makes your max effort lower days a lot easier in terms of unracking the weight and the bar being just more comfortable on your back. Just generally unracking that position, getting used to what your starting position looks like with your ribcage down, with staying super tight, tension on your glutes, big shelf for the bar, all those kind of cues that you see pro coaches throwing out, you get to feel on a real-time basis here. And I've gotten all the way up in a last training cycle to way above my 1 rep max, just holding the bar for 30 seconds for 1 set, and then backing off and starting my speed work. This time though, and the time before it, I did a heavy eccentric, basically set the rack all the way at the bottom of my squat and slow on the way down. I don't suggest this without warming up severely first because it doesn't feel too comfortable on the knee. Even though you're just doing eccentric, you're not actually squatting. And I'm trying to keep the same pace going down, but you can see that I start speeding towards the floor pretty damn fast. So, yeah, it was an experiment. I'm glad I tried it. I'm glad I'm able to tell you guys that it might not be the best idea to throw in training. But yeah. Make sure you guys are super safe. And the idea is to stay in the groove the entire way down. What's next? Some front squats. And I set these so the rack is still at the very bottom of my range of motion. And I ended up doing kind of impromptu, but I ended up doing deloaded front squats. So once I get to my work sets, I'll deload every rep down at the bottom. And that was brutal. This is a movement that I really want to keep in there. It's nice to be able to grind from absolute stop motion, as you'll see me do a few times. And I just kept 315 on the bars. I did 3 sets of 5. I really wish that sometimes I had more time to talk about breaking down some of this footage and talking about form of the front squats, angle of the back, where your elbow should be, and kind of some of the things that I've learned in the gym. But I'll just have to keep on kind of piecemeal releasing it out and answering questions as they come up from some of you guys. On another note, we have brand new 3DMJ merch out on Society 6. If you go to society6.com/3DMJ, you'll find shirts, hoodies, iPad cases, so on and so forth available. And I designed them all. So it's kind of fun for me to design stuff for 3DMJ and having all my teammates wear it and kind of support the group that supports me. So it's a big family that I'm really happy to be a part of. Oh, some of these reps are really, really grindy. Yeah, gotta love it. Here's one film from the front. You can kind of take a look at how I'm trying to keep my back flat instead of overextended, both through the start and through the finish. Keeping that shelf high and throwing those knees out. This front rack position has gotten a lot more comfortable for me since I've been focusing on mobility. And I really like deloading it because it kind of keeps me in the right setup on the way up as well. And of course, starting the bar from the stop instead of getting that rebound at the bottom makes it harder too. So. I think I had some other stuff planned today, but I kind of changed tracks since I was pretty wiped, and I switched to some box squats. So I'm getting up pretty high in box squats. Technique for this: you want to keep feet straight apart, small knee drop using arms, tucking knees up and high as you come up and on top of the box, and on the landing, forcing those knees out into kind of that classical athletic position where our knees are bent and got some external rotation through the knees, load on the glutes and hamstrings as we land. I'm going up high. This won't be anything close to a PR for me, but I do get up to about low chest sternum height, which is a pretty big jump for a 5'6", 5'7" guy. Needless to say, the powerlifting definitely helps your vertical for any of those of you who are doing other sports as well, especially ball sports. Basketball, volleyball, anything where you have to jump pretty high. There's a big transfer between squatting and deadlifting heavy and being able to jump high. It just comes out of having stronger muscles. And the landing position is pretty similar to a good land on a squat, or the bottom of a squat, especially as you get closer to your 1 rep max and you feel yourself tucking more. So here I am checking to see if I'll clear on the side before I'm starting. If you're working up towards a high box, definitely give that a try before you end up scraping your shins like I've seen a few guys do. So I don't know, it's about 40, 45 inches, something like that. And it's a big tuck and good landing, so I want to get better than this. I don't think they really do much for a powerlifter besides be a metric, unless you're doing depth jumps or sitting box jumps or anything like that. That's a lot more demanding. But single rep and even sets of 20 won't do much besides metabolic conditioning and maybe a little bit of muscle fatigue. But it's more just for fun, honestly. Mobility exercise of the day. This is one of my favorites for opening up the outside of the hip. And tuck a band around from below. The rebands are only there because I like some foam underneath my foot. Park the edge of your foot up on something about mid-thigh and get to work. So you want to keep a flat back, and ideally I'd like to get my elbow down on the table. It's very, very hard to get to that position. You should be feeling this kind of on outside lateral hip, almost glute area. Try to find some of those corners as you dig around and some of those spots where you're really tight. After that, you can ditch the wraps, put the foot flat, block the foot down, and this will be hitting a little bit more hamstring and I'd say lateral hip, but more towards the groin area, so closer to the anterior side instead of the posterior side. And this will definitely open up some squats.
Hey, so I've alluded to the fact that I coach volleyball, and I'm going to show you around one of the facilities that I coach at. This is Andrew's private courts, which we've been doing a ton of work on, trying to get up this rogue rack that you'll see behind me in a sec. 2 courts, a beach court, enough training equipment and facilities to train our kids to the highest level. So, here we go. Alright, so here we've got our 2 courts. Court number 1, court number 2, 2 layers of sport court underneath. Down here we put down some rubberized coating so it's a little bit easier to get kids traction. Courts are 30 by 60. We've got some misters over here on hot days and some fans because it does get to about 100, 102. Dumbbell rack over in the corner there, and this is our beauty, the rogue rack. 6 squat stations, flying pull-up bar, dirty south bar, wall ball targets, racks, band supports. We've got a glute ham attachment, a reverse hyper attachment, some landmines down there in the corner, and just about everything else we could possibly dream of to train kids to the best of our capabilities. Going onwards, and the V-bar attachment for the pull-up. Going on towards our newest addition, this is our beach court, which we're actually going to expand another 1.5 feet long-wise and bring it all the way back up to the edge of the house over there. This is full sand court. It took about 100 and something tons to fill it up. There's 4 inches of rubber underneath it to kind of help absorb some of the cushioning, and the rest of it is sand. So this is our facility number 1. Our second one is fully indoor, and I'll have to show that off at a later point in time. But we're about to mess around and play on the beach some, so I'll film that too, so you guys can take a look at what I do besides powerlifting.
So here we are on the rogue rack. About to do a little bit of mobility before we head out on the sand court. I am brand new to beach volleyball. I played indoor for 3 years in high school and 3 years in college as a setter and right side hitter. And beach is entirely new to me. The jumping mechanics are kind of funky. So we're all just getting in different little mobility exercises. We're all big on Kelly Starrett stuff, so it's nice to have a family we can talk to about that. Warming up with some light pepper on the sand. The sand is about 18 inches deep with 4 inches of rubber underneath. And the players you see on the right are both pros. Megan Wheeler, closest to us, just finished college at Fairleigh Dickinson. She set basically every record the school has. And Ari and Laurel, the 2 other girls, are both on our top team and being scouted by colleges. Laurel just got recruited for a full ride at Nova University in Florida. And Andrew Vasquez, the club owner, is a top 50 pro AVP beach player with a ton of other accolades. And Michelle Cole in the blue shirt graduated from Texas A&M, setting all of their defensive records. So she's one of our other coaches. So, just getting my feet wet in the beach. We'll be playing a tournament in Florida when we go up there to coach. So I kind of have to get ready for that and make sure that I know the rules because it's entirely different. I come to find out. I can't open hand tip. I can't take the first ball with my hands. There's all kinds of funky rules. So sit back, relax, and watch the last few minutes of this, a few seconds. Catch you next time.